A path is opening for the Dodgers to reunite Mike Trout with Shohei Ohtani, setting up a lineup that baseball simply isn't ready for.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network now, the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, the newest addition to the 40-man roster, Ronan Kopp's strikeout numbers scream future weapon. Hyeseong Kim, what kind of role he truly projects for in 2026 after becoming a sneaky important piece for the Dodgers last season. But first, could a blockbuster move reunite Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout? But on the right side, the winning side of Los Angeles, Travis.
Yeah, those are definitely different sides, aren't they? Those are not exactly the same thing. We'll get into it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet this $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today.
You can catch more of Travis weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 on 710 ESPN LA or the ESPN LA app with the Travis and DeMarco Show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play announcer for USC football and the Las Vegas Raiders. But when I'm not calling touchdowns, I'm right here doing what I love most, talking Dodger baseball with you. Are you new around here? Welcome to the family. Glad that you found us. If you're an everydayer, you already know what's up. You're the heartbeat that keeps Locked On Dodgers going. All right, let's jump in. Mike Trout in Dodger blue, real or just a dream? A national writer, Fansided's Christopher Klein, floated the idea that the Dodgers could be one of the teams that finally gets Mike Trout out of Anaheim. And if we're being honest, if any team could make it work, I feel like it's the Dodgers. And let's start here. The Dodgers already made baseball history pulling Ohtani from the Angels in 2023. And that move delivered exactly what it was supposed to. Rings. 2 of them. Now, LA is one of very few organizations that A, can afford Trout's contract, B, has the depth to absorb the injury risks, and C, could actually convince Trout to waive his no-trade clause. So on paper, it seems like it works, Travis.
It does, but why, I guess, would be the answer, right? Mike Trout is still a good player, but I don't know if he's a great player anymore. And the amount of money that Mike Trout makes is it's one of the worst deals in baseball. The worst deal in baseball would still be on the Angels. That would be Anthony Rendon, who still has one more year to go in Anaheim. But the Trout deal is pretty close. There's still multiple years left on a guy who is clearly in decline, who has not been an elite player in a very long time. He's still good, but he's not great, and that rate is an insanely great rate. So I think that the Dodgers would be looking to have some of that cost mitigated at some point. That's number one. Number two is the odds of Artie Moreno, even if Trout signed off on it, which we can talk about. But even if he did, Artie Moreno would never trade him to the Dodgers. Artie Moreno does the dumb thing, which is he doesn't trade with somebody because they're in his market or it's up the road or they're in the division. Like, it's never made sense to me why you wouldn't make a trade that could potentially benefit your team, regardless of who the other participant in the trade is. If I'm getting pieces that are going to help make me a better baseball team, I'll trade with anybody. I'm just looking to make my own team better. I don't care what you do. If I'm better, that's good for me. Artie Moreno doesn't see it like that. It's one of the main reasons that Shohei Ohtani, never left in the first place, because they knew that he was going to end up in the Dodgers, and he didn't want to send him to LA because he thought that was somehow bad for him. He ended up there anyway. The last part of it is I don't know if they need Mike Trout, right? The Dodgers have a unique situation in that you can't have a DH spot available to any of your players other than Ohtani, because Ohtani's going to DH every single day. And to Ohtani's credit, he plays every day. He is an incredibly durable player as far as that goes. So Mike Trout can't play, every day in the outfield. His body's just not going to allow him to do it at this point. So it's interesting. I really hope for Trout's sake that we get to see him play in meaningful games at some point in his career. Going to LA would certainly provide him that opportunity. But I don't see the stars aligning on this for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, Trout's deal is a 12-year, $426,500,000 contract, which averages just a bit over $37 million a year. And I feel like if the Dodgers wanted to pay a player $37 mil per year, they would go younger. They would go somebody that would be there for a longer time. But just looking at this Trout paradox, it's like on one hand, you're talking about adding a 3-time MVP, a generational hitter, and a guy who immediately turns the lineup into a terrifying one because picture it. The way the Dodgers lineup is constructed right now, it's like crazy. But then you add Trout, it would be Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, Trout, Smith in the top 5. That right there, it's a movie poster. It ain't a batting order. That would be like you're looking at a superhero movie. And LA's outfield was the one real soft spot last year for the boys in blue, and Trout would fill that hole with a superstar presence. And that's the big if he's able to stay on the field. And that's the $1 million variable right there, or really the $250,000 variable for the boys in blue. Because when was the last time that Trout actually played a full season? Because the skill is elite, but the availability hasn't been.
Yeah, he played 130 games last year, which is really good, but he also was a 1.5 win player. That's not very good. And it's certainly not very good at the price that you mentioned. He's still got 5 years left on that deal. But your point is a good one, Harry, because you go back prior to last year, where again, he did play 130 games, but prior to that, he played 29, 82, 119, which is just about the floor of okay. 36. Like, this is a player who is clearly in decline. He has not been that guy that we are familiar with for a very long time. And to pay premium prices for him, it's cool. It's cool to think about. Like, if all of a sudden Mike Trout is your 7th or 8th best guy, that is crazy. He's he's a deadlock cinch, first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest players I've ever laid on with my own 2 eyes. Like, when I used to work for the Angels, it was right when Mike Trout was coming up and really exploded onto the scene. And every night Mike Trout would do so and make you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing. He's an incredible player. He plays hard, by all accounts, pretty good guy, good teammate, all that stuff. He's just past the prime. And here's one of the things that I think the Dodgers are so darn good at is they don't do deals like this, right? They don't get it unless it's free, right? Unless it's just one of those, there's very little risk, there's only upside. Well, $35 million a year for 5 more years for a guy that is on the wrong side of his career is just flat out a bad investment.
Yeah, unless the Angels take a big chunk of that contract, and there's all right, here, take them, but we need a massive haul of prospects. And that's where, for example, at least with Trout, you would be looking at multiple years of team control, but you would be paying a lot of money. In the case of Scooball, who we were talking about yesterday, it's like you would send a massive haul, but you only have 1 year guaranteed. But you could also do that behind the scenes talk with his agent and be like, okay, we need to have this guaranteed right now. And look, right now, the Dodgers could survive some of those absences that Trout could have. Other teams, probably not. That's why this idea isn't insane. It's just very complicated, and it's I'll say very, very difficult for it to happen. But I thought it was a great talking point because I remember those 2018, 2019, 21s when the Dodgers were dueling with the Angels, and it was like you knew that you had Ohtani and Trout at the top of the lineup, and it was like, oh boy, you just want to get through that part of the lineup and you're good, but knew it was hard going against Trout and Ohtani.
Yeah, the difference is Trout's not that guy anymore. You can pitch to Mike Trout now. You can attack him in a way that you couldn't a few years ago. It's been a while since he's been that guy. It's interesting. It would be fun. And like I said a second ago, I hope that Mike Trout gets to play in meaningful games at some point in his career, but the Dodgers don't make bad deals. And that would be a really bad, if they had to pay it just would never happen. I don't think anybody would want Mike Trout at this point at full price. It's just, it's a bad deal for a player that is on the wrong side of his best days. Like these other guys that we're talking about, Scooble and whatnot, they are in the middle of their prime. Their best years are happening right now and hopefully in the immediate future. Trout's best days are 8-9 years ago.
We saw Miguel Rojas talk about Shohei Ohtani, how after he hit the home run to tie the World Series, he went to the dugout and said, you can't retire. You need to play 10 more years with me here with the Dodgers. And that got me thinking. I was like, do you think he would go to bat for Mike Trout with the front office?
Ohtani?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just such a bad deal. You know what I mean? Like, he's just barely better than a guy, right? I mean, just to use WAR as the example, he's a 1.5 WAR player, which means you win one more game on your team with Mike Trout than if you had a zero replacement level player at $35 million a year. I mean, Ohtani has a ton of sway in that organization. There's no question about it. But I don't know if he's got enough sway to get them to make what is just unequivocally a bad decision. And by the way, none of this would happen because Artie Moreno would never do it. You know, that, like, for whatever reason, he thinks that making his own team better while giving, you know, a guy to the Dodgers is actually, I mean, go back to that deal where he had a chance to get, what was it, Jock Peterson and it was
Randy Baez.
No, it was,
or no, even, yeah. Even further back, yeah.
The Dodgers wanted Rengifo a few years ago, and he just didn't want to wait. And it was such a bad idea at the time. And last I looked, Artie Moreno hasn't gotten any smarter.
No doubt about that one. And look, from one star with a complicated fit to another player who might secretly be one of LA's most important chess pieces in 2026, coming up on Locked On Dodgers, how Hyeseong Kim fits into the 2026 Dodgers after an underrated debut season.
The NBA, yep, it is back. By the way, how about the Lakers and LeBron look the other night? And there's no better place to get in on all of that wonderful NBA action than with FanDuel, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NBA, which means you've got a million different ways to get in on all the fun with FanDuel. Like, let's say you missed the start of the game. You want to ride that hot hand. You want to see who's heating up through the course of the game. FanDuel's got you covered because FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to that incredible fourth quarter comeback that we all love. Plus, you know what that means. You can combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at even bigger payouts. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is that team that's making that late push. We saw the Lakers in the fourth quarter the other night. Not too bad. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So going over to FanDuel.com right now, sign up, and don't forget, you get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You can check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe for free and smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and more. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Hyeseong Kim, the Dodgers' next great utility star. Kim didn't make national headlines in 2025, but inside the Dodgers clubhouse, people noticed a lot. He delivered a 1.7 WAR in just 71 games, and that's not good. That's impactful for a player who appeared in less than half of the regular season games for the Boys in Blue. And he brought something, Travis, that the Dodgers needed desperately: versatility with athleticism, because we saw guys like Chris Taylor, who was at the tail end of his career, Tommy Edman, who was hurt, Kike Hernandez, who was hurt, and Kim, you could slot him anywhere in the outfield. You could slot him shortstop, second base, and he gave you that type of versatility where it's like, hey, this guy's young, this guy's fast, and he can bring us something different. The situation here is the offense, though. He was steady. He wasn't great, but he still needs to get better with that.
He does. Look, just to kind of put a cap on this, Hyeseong Kim gave you the same WAR as Mike Trout in half as many games with, a price that is, a fraction of what it is, just to give you an idea of where Trout is in his career. But Kim is the opposite there for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, he's young. He's incredibly athletic. He's inexpensive, and he can do a whole bunch of things. And like we've talked about a lot here on Locked On Dodgers, the everydayers will certainly recognize this. optionality, positionality is an incredibly important thing that the Dodgers covet. This is something that goes back for years and years under Andrew Friedman, that the Dodgers don't like a guy that just does one thing unless that one thing you do at an exceptional level. You can be Freddie Freeman and be that sort of guy. You could be, well, Ohtani doesn't do one thing, but you could be Max Muncy and stay over at third base and hit your 30 home runs. And even Muncy can play second. He can play first. You can move him around. But Kim is one of those guys. The more outfield he plays, I think the better he will get at it. And again, he doesn't have to turn into, the second coming of a Gold Glover. He just needs to be capable out there. He could play 3 infield positions, and he just got to learn how to hit at the major league level. And I think that he will. The way that he came in and the way that he went out, I think are a little different. I'm really bullish on him. I think he's an incredibly useful player. And like you said, Harry, the Dodgers are an older team. They need to start getting younger. They need to start getting more athletic, more dynamic. And Kim is a good example of that, and a guy that, fills a lot of different needs for the Dodgers. And I think that his second season in the big leagues will be much better than his first. And again, he's kind of one of those guys they brought in as let's see what we got out of this. This wasn't a Yamamoto situation where a guy comes from another league and he's fully ready to go. This is a guy that comes from another league, and let's see where he slots in the big leagues. And he found a home. He was on the roster throughout the entire postseason just about, and, didn't play a ton, but they knew that he was a weapon that they could deploy at certain parts.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's barely going to turn 27 in January. He's a young fella. He only had 161 at bats over those games, which is nothing. And he still batted 280, which isn't bad. In the Michael Conforto scale, that's an all-star season. But the challenge here is simple. The Dodgers are stacked on his positions. Edman looks to be locked at second. Mookie is staying at short. Andy Pajes is the favorite at center. So would you trust him with him being the left fielder that the Dodgers could potentially be rotating their spots with Ryan, with Call, Kim, or do you give him a permanent position out there in the outfield, or do you put Tommy Edman out at center and then put Kim at second? Because he looked very comfortable at second base doing plays left and right whenever he was there. So unless someone drops off or gets hurt, let's be real, baseball seasons always include that, and we saw it a lot for the Dodgers this year. Kim's probably not going to walk into an everyday role.
No, and I think you're right. He's best suited to be in the infield, and there doesn't appear to be a ton of options for starting roles in the infield, that the infield is pretty locked down in what that is. But that's okay. Not every guy has to have a starting role. You need guys that fill, bench roles. You need guys that are depth pieces along the way. And like you just said, Harry, there's not a guy on this team that's going to play 150, 60 games, and if they do, great. Mookie may do it. Muncy, who knows how his health goes.
Freddie.
Tommy Edmonds missed a lot of time. Freddie's kind of locked down over at first base, but guys miss time. Guys go in and out. Again, this is why Rojas was so good. This is why Kike Hernandez was so good. This is why Chris Taylor was here for such a long time, because you can move guys around in so many different places when guys go down, when guys cool off. And Kim's role on this team is probably not as a starter anytime soon, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a role. That just means he doesn't have a role as an everyday player, but he could still get a lot of at-bats and be a very important part of what they do, because nobody plays 162 games anymore.
A guy that both you and I already mentioned here in this segment, Chris Taylor. He thrived in that world for years for the Dodgers. And Kim might be CT3 2.0, younger, faster, and more dynamic. So I like the idea. I would have loved to see Kim play more this year, but the reality is, at the end of the day, the Dodgers are back-to-back champs, and they didn't need him more than what they already saw from him. And it could be a case like Roki Sasaki, where it's like year one was just the adaptation phase to Major League Baseball. Year two can be the coming out party.
Yeah, I think that's probably a likely scenario. I don't know if he'll ever be a star, but we're so spoiled, and I put myself right in the middle of this group as a Dodger fan, but we're so spoiled of, hey, why is our 8th best guy not an MVP candidate? Why is our depth piece in the outfield not an all-star? Because that's not how it works. You need guys that fill roles. And I think Kim is a good example of that. He could be the next Chris Taylor. He could be the next Kike Hernandez, maybe without the clutch gene in the playoffs. Look, if he is great, we'll certainly take
the flair.
Yeah, we'll take Generation 2.0 Kike. Whenever that guy shows up, we'll be excited to have him. But you need guys to be a part of the team, to fill out the roster, to play roles that are not star roles. And could he be that next guy? Absolutely, he could. He's got to learn to handle velocity a little better. That's something that he's struggled with. That was not unexpected coming over from the KBO. I think that was one of those things. Feel like, okay, let's see what it is. That's the biggest jump, is the velocity of the pitching when you come to the American major leagues from somewhere else. And he struggled with that a little bit, but he certainly is athletic enough to get up to speed. I'm a fan of Kim, and if he's on your bench for an entire season, I think that's a really good sign.
Pitchers adjusted to him. Now it's time for him to make
Yep.
adjustments to the pitchers in Major League Baseball. And look, and speaking of championship depth, let's talk about a lefty who throws fire. Next on Locked On Dodgers, Ronan Kopp, the flamethrower the Dodgers protected from the Rule 5 draft, could be a sneaky bullpen weapon very soon. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Why the Dodgers protected Ronin Cop, the strikeout machine? The Dodgers had a decision to make at the Rule 5 deadline, and they made it loud and clear. Ronin Cop is part of their future pitching plans. His numbers are crazy, Travis. He was the lone prospect on the 40-man roster that they kept on this squad this week that they brought up. And that tells you everything you need to know about what the Dodgers view in him. He's 23. He's massive. He strikes out the world. And across AA and AAA last season, Cop posted a 3.43 ERA, 91 strikeouts in 57 and 2/3 innings, a ridiculous 14.2 strikeouts per nine, one of the best in the high minors.
Yeah, that is a crazy number. That have over 14 per nine is bonkers. And look, there's all these different ways you can go to build your baseball team. There's all these different areas of emphasis that you can put on and what you want here and what you want there. But when it comes right down to it, the thing that has always mattered the most, the thing that does matter the most, and the thing that will continue to matter the most as long as we continue to play this game is pitching. That if you have pitching, you always have a chance to win. I don't know if you are an immaculate grid guy, Harry, right? Like, so I love the grid. And on Saturdays, they don't have team categories typically. It's just statistical categories. And on Saturdays, I like to do the grid with all Dodger players if I can. I like to slide in and use only Dodgers in there if I can. When it's pitching categories, it's super easy because the Dodgers have a long history of not good pitching, not great pitching, but just legendarily great pitching, going all the way back to the 50s and 60s to all the way to where we are right now. If you go back and try to do that with offensive statistical categories, it's a little more difficult. They have not had that litany of great players similar to the way that they have pitchers. They will always go pitching. Every team should do the same thing, that pitching, and Ronan Kopp could be the next guy. Who knows? He could be one of those names that 2 years from now we're like, what was that dude's name that had 14.2 Ks per nine? I don't even remember. But they will always defer to stacking pitching first, and that's why they've been as good as they've been for as long as they've been.
Yeah, and the Dodgers, they love lefties who miss bats, and Kopp is that to the extreme. Big extension, uncomfortable angles, and a slider that just plays everywhere. And by protecting him, the Dodgers pretty much said, this guy is too talented to risk losing, and he's close to be somebody that catches the attention of another team.
And the other thing can be, too, he could be an asset to go get something else that you may need. That this is another thing that the Dodgers do incredibly well that some other teams don't, is every time it comes down to make a deal, the Dodgers have assets to go make those deals. They have players that other teams covet. So if I'm just making something up here. If I want your left fielder for the stretch drive, I've got a couple of pitchers that other teams are drooling over that other teams may not have. So I'm more likely to be able to get a deal done with you than the third team in it, because they just don't have a Ronin Cop in the minor leagues that every other team would like to have. They're so good in so many ways. And the obvious way is, okay, they got all these stars, they spent all this money, sure, but that they got guys like this in their back pocket to go either A, come up and become the next wave of great big leaguers, or two, flip them for other things the way that they went out. They got Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, and they give up a Josiah Gray, give up a Kyber Ruiz. Those guys are major leaguers, but they didn't turn into stars, right? Or at least they haven't so far. And this is the secret sauce. Quality major leaguers are really hard to find. Prospects are prospects for a reason. They're not finished products, and that the Dodgers can do both of those things is really exceptional.
And look, the thing is, like, the guys that the Dodgers traded over to the Nationals or to the Red Sox, it's like they went in there pretty much with the responsibility of, it's like, hey, we sent over big time players to get you. So you have the responsibility to be a big leaguer from day one that delivers for this club. That's a big weight on somebody's back. And when you got somebody like Kopp coming up who could be competing for bullpen innings as early as this spring, it's like, hey, you don't have the responsibility of, hey, you're the closer for this team. It's like, no, we'll put you in there when we feel that we need you in there. Just deliver when you're in there. You're not a big high leverage guy in day one. We got guys that have that spot. And you could look at players like Kasparius, like Robleski, like Sheehan, who came up to the Dodgers pretty much with that formula. And it's like, hey, they didn't have the responsibility of the world on top of them. And that let them develop into the players that they are now.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was going to mention one other name too, that a guy that made the team last year at the beginning of the year and stuck with them the entire season. He never went. I mean, he was there for the whole 6-month run plus the playoffs, was Jack Dreyer. It's just like you come in here. Let's see if you can help the team in a variety of role. Maybe it's middle innings. Maybe it's just an opportunity to get some outs here or there, to be a specialist in one regard or another. And then it's like, he's pretty useful. Let's stick him, or let's leave him here. Let's leave him here. And the next thing you know, you're pitching important innings. The next thing you know, you become one of those branches on the trust tree that Dave Roberts talks about. Jack Dreyer was a who's that to a, oh yeah, Jack Dreyer's been here all year. That's kind of the roadmap that a player like Kopp could potentially take for a team coming in this season, because you always need arms. You guys are shuffling in and out, and if you can stay healthy and get guys out, there's going to be a spot for you.
Yeah, and another move, the Dodgers also opened up another 40-man roster spot this week by dealing Robinson Ortiz for Tyler Goff. But obviously the headline remains Kopp, a left-handed strikeout machine who is suddenly one big jump away from Dodger Stadium. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's this year's Jack Dreyer.
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's one every year. Sometimes there's more than one, and guys shuffle up and down and go through it. Kasparius was one of those guys a couple of years ago, and then this year kind of struggled in that role after thriving in the role. It happens so often. And again, with the Dodgers, that they have just a wave of guys that they can continue to try to slide into these roles. It's not like you said a second ago, Harry, and I think it's a great point. Hey, I need you to be my guy that pitches the 8th inning. And if it doesn't work, I'm absolutely cooked because I don't have anybody else to do it. It's, okay, you're not ready for that? We're going to put you over here. We're going to try the next guy. If you are ready for that, okay, cool. We're going to let you sit here and do this. And if you thrive, maybe we'll give you more and more responsibility. If you struggle, we may move you out. But it's not we are going to sink or swim. Think about how many pitchers the Dodgers tried at the last couple of months of that season. And they finally landed on a group of guys that was at least good enough to get to the postseason. And then they did what they always do in the playoffs, where you just mix and match on any given night and get it done. But yeah, he's going to get a shot like every other guy with a live arm is going to get a shot to pitch on this team. And this is the best team to do it for, because if you pitch well, they're going to keep you.
So in my opinion, Ronan Kopp is a name that you better keep in the back of your mind once spring training starts and once the 2026 season starts. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow, Friday, we're talking about a potential reunion with Cody Bellinger, plus Travis Rodgers' exclusive one-on-one interview with former Dodger Ramon Martinez. That was a great combo, Travis, and I can't wait to share it with all of our friends that listen to Locked On Dodgers.
Yeah, no, Ramon was a great guy. Man, tall son of a gun, too. He stood up and like, woo, Ramon's a big man.
Yeah, the guy that you don't want to mess with.
No.
We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue. And if you don't listen to tomorrow's episode, we're sending Ramon Martinez to you.